think the funniest thing, I'll just start off with, Nancy and I were emailing a few weeks ago, and I'm emailing, I'm going, Nancy, what's the brief? Do you want me to do slides? Do you want me to, what do you want me to do? And she sort of said, well, it's stories and all, and I thought, how ironic that the head of the 4As can't give me a good brief. As we always get picked on as clients for not giving good briefs. So anyway, I hate talking about myself. I really, really do. But Nancy I sent her my slides. She dismissed them. So here I am, slideless and storytelling. I will tell you just a very quick canter through my experience. I was trying to think about a pithy way to encapsulate my story. And I would say the story of Wendy Clark is improbable, but I own it. Which I think is probably important. I was raised by a single mother who was born in Oklahoma, Tiffany, who grew up in Venezuela, who took a chance trip to England, and my father, who was raised in an upper middle class family in England, whose brother was the Queen's press secretary, and somehow these two people came together and created me and lasted all but 3 years together. For obvious reasons. I mean, I couldn't have anything. It was obviously tremendous lust, which I will get to the bottom of at some point. But it produced me, and only me. So I guess I'm very lucky. So I was raised by an American mother in England until I was 12, and then came back here. I'm a very average student. I'm not a very bright person. People don't like it when I say that, but especially in England, I was a particularly average student. But I came back here and went to Florida, and I went to a series of schools as I could not find my way as someone who had a strange accent and kept testing out of grades. I'd never been bright because I wasn't bright in England. I kept testing out of grades here because the school system was ahead. And so I went to 4 schools in 4 years when I first got here. My mother kept insisting it was character building. And anywho, I ended up in college and I studied creative writing. I had a degree and finished school in 1991. I went to school in Florida, so the big metropolis when you're in Florida is Atlanta. So I went to Atlanta looking for a job with my resume in hand in 1991 and convinced I wanted to be a writer and get into advertising, and just got a series of no's, no. I really didn't have any form of work experience. I've worked all my life because I had to, because we didn't have very much money being raised by a single mom. So I forged my birth certificate. I started working when I was 15. I've never not worked my entire life. I worked all the way through college. I think that work ethic has probably served me fairly well, but I wasn't getting good advertising experience because I couldn't intern because I had to work. Looked for a job. I finally got a job at a little tiny ad agency outside Atlanta in Sandy Springs, Georgia, as a receptionist. And I had that same moment, whoever said it, Susan said it, where you're thinking, did I just really go to 4 years of school to become a receptionist? And by the way, displace someone who was perfectly capable of being a good receptionist, which I was not. But I was just convinced if I got my foot in the door, and I did go home. You earned $11,500. I earned $14,000 in 1991. I went home, looked my mother in the eye, and I said, I'm moving out. And she said, good luck. And I dated for food at that point. I really, no first dates were turned down, honest to God. Second dates became slightly more problematic. But I rarely got asked on a second date because I was so busy eating on the first date. I was like, I was not very graceful or attractive. But I was starving. I was eating ramen noodles. I was starving. But, the rest is history. You work your way up. You put a shoulder into it. You learn. I had a series of jobs then and went and did marketing communications at another company in Atlanta. Mentors have played a role all the way through, people kind of pushing you. I think one of the things is to hear them, or to hear and be open to those nudges. A lot of times people nudge you, and I think we, especially as we get further along in our career, we tend to embolden ourselves around, well, I actually have a plan. So, you don't listen to those nudges and those whispers quite as much. But early on in my career, a person who had been a client at our agency, our little tiny agency, which is still in business, woman-owned, in Sandy Springs. For 30 years she has been in business, Priscilla Jessup at the Denmark Group. And she's like my mother. She'll call me, you do the all email when you change jobs, so I changed my address, and she'll call me, oh, honey, I can't believe you used to answer my phones, and now you're running advertising at Coke! She's just, elated. Anyway, so, but another mentor called me about 5 years into my career, and I was was having a blast. I was doing all kinds. I can't remember what I was doing. I was doing internal marketing, something way ahead of what I should have been doing at the time. And she said, you don't know marketing. And I said, well, of course I do. I'm writing things, and I'm issuing briefs, and and she said, no, and she had an MBA from Emory, and she said, you really don't know marketing. And she said, if you come work for me, I will teach you. You don't know anything about pricing. You don't know anything about product launches. You don't know anything about R&D. You don't know marketing. But by the way, I don't really know advertising. If you come and do my advertising for me, I will teach you the rest of what you don't know. And that was one of those great moments. I had to move to Orlando to do it. But I did it, and that's how I got into telecom, Bell South, and then Bell South ended up merging with SBC, and we launched Singular, and that's where I got to work very closely with Susan Creedle. So we did the Singular thing, and then I went and did GSD&M for a while. I thought I knew everything about advertising, so I moseyed into GSD&M and really reset my experience because I didn't know everything about advertising. I certainly didn't understand how agencies made money. And then the interesting thing was going back to the client side and GSD&M becoming my agency. And then one day someone at AT&T was looking for me, and they said, "Oh, Wendy's in her office negotiating with herself." So that was sort of interesting. And along the way, I've had 3 babies. My third one, my last one, was born on the day that the new AT&T launch was probably one of the bigger things I ever did in my career, rebranding AT&T and that launch. And my son was born on the day that the merger was approved by the DOJ. And the next day and the day after that, I did interviews with the Wall Street Journal and New York Times while nursing my baby. No one ever knows that I was actually sitting in my bed nursing my child while I was talking to the reporters at Wall Street Journal, which was fine because that was part of the deal. And I guess, I think, I hate the word life balance because the notion of putting the job I love against the family I love and trying to work out some kind of power play is unthinkable to me. No one wins in that. But if I integrate it on the terms that I'm willing to do, I'm fine with that, as long as I own it and choose how to integrate that. And I think life integration looks an awful lot different, and many companies let you do that now. And so I wasn't working, but I was the best placed and positioned person to do these interviews. I knew the most about the journey we had been on. And so I did it. Anyway, and then, 4 years of working at AT&T, which, by the way, my reason for taking that job, having been on the agency side for 2 years and having my clients call me at midnight and go, my boss just changed everything and we need to change the deck, and being up at 1 a.m. doing someone else's PowerPoint thinking, this fucking sucks, going back on the client side, was to say to my husband, I'll go back on the client side, I'll get my 1 a.m.s back, it'll be all good. It's SPC, it is a sleepy little regional company, 13 states. This is, piece of cake. We've got 2 kids, we get our life back. So we moved to San Antonio. There's Orlando and then there's San Antonio. 5 months after I'd been there, they announced the acquisition of AT&T, and overnight became the world's largest telecommunications company, which suddenly didn't sound so sleepy and regional. So that never quite came to fruition, all my plans to slow down. Anyway, Coke called when I was at AT&T, and again, all the principles that were said on the panel earlier, as much as I talk to women about leaning into opportunity, about taking risks, about doing all this, the first thing I said to the headhunter is, I'm not ready for that job. Literally talked my way out of it. It was Linside, who Susan and I know very well, and she knew me very well. And she's like, "What do you mean you're not ready for this? I know you're ready for this." And I sat and talked her out of the reasons why I should be a candidate for the job, right? And after all this talking and mentoring to other women, and in that moment, you just do the same thing. And God love him, it was my husband that night when I went home over dinner, and I said, Coke called today. And he said, what? And I said, well, they're looking for a head of, global communications, but, I don't think it's the right thing. I'm not done with what I got to do here at AT&T. And he's like eating. He's looking at me, and he goes, let me get this straight. You've worked in your career in marketing, in a series of progressed roles, you've just done the single largest rebranding of any brand ever in history, and you're really passionate about what you do, and you really want to get into some sort of global role, but this, and the world's largest, most valuable brand just call you, but this isn't the right role for you. Is that what So it was, again, those nudges, and so I ended up talking to them, and despite my trying to tell them that I had no packaged goods experience, here I stand 4.5 years later, and we're having a blast, and I think part of that is your skills are very transferable. I think, again, women take things very literally, and I hadn't done packaged goods, but I had done marketing, and I had done advertising, and they wanted a different viewpoint and a different lens. They had plenty of packaged goods marketers. They wanted someone that might think a little differently. So there we go on that bit. What I've learned along the way, I just kind of wrote some stuff down. I think the simple principle of treating people well is hard to overstate. I have tried at every step in my career, in every dealing I have, to treat people the way I would like to be treated. And I think that very simple golden rule is so often forgotten about. And I will tell you, if I try to boil down my career to one thing, I have had very few, if I really can't remember many or any, tenuous, unresolved challenges in my career and dealings, right? I mean, we certainly, we fight and we scratch and we claw and we believe in something and we put everything behind it and we cry and but it always gets resolved, right? And I think at the end of it, there's a wonderful saying that I think kind of marks it. You play the ball, not the person, right? And I play the ball. This is not, and I have very personal relationships, and even after I'm finished playing the ball, I go back and check off with the people. There's nothing in it for me for taking someone out. I don't enjoy that, I don't like it, and much like Susan, I'm much more motivated by seeing people succeed and reach their potential. That does a lot for me. I think the other thing I would say, there's been a lot of discussion this morning or this afternoon, I've never tried to be a man. I've never taken golf lessons. Ever. I am not interested in playing golf. They can have that. I just want to be a woman. I've never worn a big, bulky blue suit. I'm not, I am who I am, and I believe that I'm in a role because I am who I am. And anytime I try and be something different, I've watched too many women in and around me, women who are senior than to me and along my career, who've really just tried to be men. They and I think they don't want you in the foursome. They don't. Let's be honest. Why are you trying to force yourself in there? They don't want you there. But and again, I think it comes down to that intelligence and respect. I wanted to get invited for what I would contribute. I don't want to be in their foursome. They don't want me there. But I do want to be at their table when we're making business decisions. I do want to be invited there. So I think part of that is owning, I think you can be a worse them or a better you. And I've always just tried to be a better who I am. But the cards I got dealt. I am also a relentless optimist, and I think that has served me fairly well. At the worst of times, I try to find the positive always, because you only get to do this one time. I do not want to waste a day in a rut. It just sucks, right? So there is always some kind of positive. There's always some sort of light or something to come out of something. And I think if you could always find the positive, especially as a leader, if you lose your way as a leader, and I'm sure all of us in our careers have had those moments as a leader where it has been hard as hell to find the positive. Losing business at the agency. It's like, how am I going to get up and explain this? We're going to lay off people. How does this work out? But you have to find the lessons in it. You have to find the positive. Just fundamentally believe that. And I think that's an important thing. I have two quotes that I quote extensively and often, and they've kind of served me well. Sun Tzu has 5 principles that he says or attributes that are all leaders demonstrate, and this has always served me well. He says to be brave, caring, disciplined, smart, and trustworthy. And at every juncture in my career when I have thought about or any difficult decision or something, I think, am I being brave enough? Am I being caring enough? Am I being disciplined? Am I being smart enough? Am I being trustworthy? And I think those 5 principles have endured, obviously, over hundreds of years, if you believe in Sun Tzu and his teachings. But I really think that those are useful. The other quote I like a lot is something that Gandhi said, which is, be thoughtful, be gentle, and be fearless. And I think if you think about those in good measure too, that comes back to some of the discussion this morning on taking risks. You have to be fearless, but you don't have to be obtuse while you're being fearless. I think you can be thoughtful and gentle and be courageous and fearless at the same time. The final things I guess I would say on what I think we need to do to help advance women. I'm going to try not to retread too much ground, but you have to lean into opportunity. You have to lean in. What any of us would tell you is where the greatest achievement came in our careers when we took the biggest risk. Leaving a perfectly comfortable job, a perfectly good situation to go and do your own thing. Leaving a perfectly good job at AT&T and going to Coke and trying something new. I mean, when that opportunity finds you, you've got to go do it. You've got to go do it. You cannot expect different results from sitting still. You can't be static and stagnant. You've got to be dynamic, and you've got to constantly be learning. You can do that in your own environments, but make sure you're creating that and you're not treading water, because you're going to get treading water outcomes if you just tread water. You can't expect those two to net and create. I let people come see me, well, I want to upgrade my job. Well, are you doing anything different? No, but I've been here a long time. Well, sorry, right? It doesn't work like that, right? It doesn't work like that. You got to take on new things. You got to do things. You got to create new value. And I think you got to be very clear about it. I see men and women constantly do this in our organization, where men will lean into the opportunity and women lean away from it. So you have equally skilled man and woman. I, as their manager, may come to them and say, I want you to think about this job. And the man, I mean, before the sentence is finished coming out of my mouth, it said, I'm in, I'll do it. I don't have to call anyone, I don't have to, I'm in. I'll jump out the building, I'll build the wings on the way down, I'm in, And the woman's like, well, I don't know, because I didn't, I've got a few more things. And, just like I did when Coke called. So you just have to lean into those. And you have to be very clear about your expectations. I think the other thing women do is go, well, surely they see the body of my work. I've done all of this work, and I'm sure they're up there monitoring all of my output. No, they're not. They're not. The other thing I like to talk about a lot, and I know you're going to come on to it later this afternoon, is this, that I call it the superwoman syndrome. I mean, somewhere programmed in all of our DNA is we have been, taught or raised or somehow come to the fact that we must do everything at excellence. Right? We must be excellent worker, excellent mother, excellent sister, excellent wife, excellent, daughter, insert here. We must be, at high levels of achievement in everything we do. And you will wear yourselves out, you will absolutely wear yourselves out if you hold yourself to that threshold. And, I think we're really bad at accepting help. I mean, I see it in myself all day long. And we just think we have to, we're control freaks, for one. I mean, that's the honest thing of it, Yeah, I can tell you story after story. You have friends over, and you're cooking, you're cleaning up your kids, you're cleaning up your house, you're cooking, and your partner or your spouse says, can I help? And what do you say? No, right? No. Why? Why do you say no? Of course they can help. And what do they go do next? So watching ESPN, and you're like frazzled, lighting candles. I see it in myself. I'm like, what is wrong with me? And it is not the picture of success, right? That is not the picture of success that we're trying to paint. I had an experience a couple months ago, just to put a fine point on it, as we had 2 soccer games in the morning. We had friends coming over, and I'm running through Whole Foods, and I've got 2 of my 3 kids, and I'm late, right? No meat is marinating. And by the way, I have a full-time nanny who could have capably bought this food for me if I'd asked. I mean, there's all kinds of things that I have resisted because I must control the selection of the fromage. So this is all brought on myself, and I'm yanking my kids through. And my he was 5 at the time, and he can't keep up, so I hoist him on my hip. I'm like a mad woman with the cart, and I've got my 7-year-old, and he's got, mommy, I'm like, JB, I got crackers, I'm running around, and I won't, he finally goes, but Mommy, and I said, what, JV? He goes, you're hurting my balls. Yes, sitting on my hip, in the middle of the produce section. And everyone in the produce section is like, mother of the century. And, and you're just, all of a sudden you have these moments, and you're like, this is not the picture of success. This isn't working out. Right? So I put him down. So yes, we have to stop that. We have to accept help, right? And the other thing is, I think, what everyone most wants from you is your attention. Every single person in your life just wants your undivided attention. The people who work for you, the people you work for, your partners, your spouses, your children, your mother, your whatever, insert here. They just want, we sit on boards and everything, they just want your focus. That's all people want from you. And as much as Nancy and I were talking about coming from technology backgrounds, I understand technology, I love technology, I use technology, but technology, while it enables us to do more, also creates a gray in our life, which clouds that focus. And I think we have to be really purposeful about when and how to use this technology so that we don't take the thing that people most want from you away from them. And any of you who have children, when your hand slides for that phone, what do? My kids flip out because they know they're going to lose my attention. The minute that comes on, I'm like, yeah, keep going, right? I'm not engaged, right? So we have to resist or at least own and shape our lives properly on that, because otherwise I think it's not. Another thing, I was jotting notes so everyone else was speaking early. No one in this room is only lucky. I'm sure we've benefited from luck, but women routinely say, "Oh, how did you get here?" Well, I was really lucky. Bullshit! I worked hard, right? I've been working since I was 15. Yeah, I had some lucky strokes and met some lucky people, but women are too quick to say, "I was lucky." No, you weren't lucky. Luck is gender neutral, right? Everyone has luck. You worked hard, and I think we too quickly sort of lean back, well, it's just a series of circumstances and people. And no, you worked for this. You own it. You've got to own this. So I said, my life is improbable, but I own it. Right? And I think it's fine to say, some of this luck played a role, but don't not own it. Ultimately, I think there's a huge void of leadership right now. And leading is hard. Right? Just honestly, there's no kind of throttling back in leadership. You throttle back in leadership, and the whole team's like, wow. You can kind of feel this collective malaise come over when and so you've got to be up for the task. You've got to be in it. You've got to know. And by the way, you asked for it, so you better deliver it. Don't sign up to be a leader and then lament the challenges of it. Right? Get in it and do it well, and take it on. And no one, everyone wants someone to follow. We see Barack Obama do an amazing speech yesterday, right? He's leading, right? We just want to follow someone with a clear vision and a clear ambition. It doesn't matter, and that's how people feel at your company, at your agency. They want someone to follow. They want someone to believe in, someone with a vision, who cares and shows their passion for the brand, for the company, for the agency. So I think I'll stop rambling. The last thing I would say is I think that our greatest gift as a gender is something we tend to run from too much. In my opinion, our greatest gift is empathy. I think women are really, really empathetic. And because it's our greatest gift, it is also our advantage. And I think that just sort of comes back to the piece I was talking about earlier on caring about people and caring about, playing the ball and not the person. If you're empathetic and you use empathy in the workplace and bring empathy to that, it doesn't mean you don't bring smarts, you don't bring bravery and everything else, but it's this like sixth level that you can bring that I think we bring much more successfully, generally speaking, than men. And so use that empathy, don't run from it, be it. Embody it and embrace it and bring it to the workplace and do everything else you're doing and be empathetic. I think it becomes unbeatable. So this is my torn up, beaten up copy. This has been in my briefcase since it's been out. It's all beaten up. I hated this. And that's why I don't let it out of my briefcase, because I hated it on two levels. I didn't like, obviously, the content of it, and I really bloody hated that it was 15 pages long. It took me like 4 flights to read. I was like, now where were we again in your thesis? I kept having to back up pages, but we can't stand for this. Women can have it all. If we allow people to help us, if we channel the best us, if we take risks, if we own our success and our plan, I fundamentally believe, and I think I'm living proof of being able to have it all, and I think we should all challenge ourselves to debunk stuff like this and prove it. Obviously her experience was different, but I don't think this means this has to be everyone's experience. So that's enough rambling. Yeah? Don't. Oh. And I brought my unbranded cup of water since you have that nonsense out there.